Hello everyone, I'm really excited to be sharing with you today this 1cc of Braid using Yusuke. I've been slowly grinding away at this game for a really long time, and so when this 1cc finally came through and I was able to get it on video, yeah, it was just a really great feeling. And so hopefully through this commentary it helps you a little bit with your own 1cc attempts at this game. So I mentioned that I'm playing Yusuke here, and the reasons for that, actually there are several reasons. The first is that his main shot, even though it's very linear, is very strong, which really helps with the bosses in this game, because the bosses are the primary sources of the difficulty. And also Yusuke has the fastest movement speed of the three characters in the original game. I'm playing right now in Retroarch through the FbNeo core, so this is the arcade version only. So that's the reason why I'm playing Yusuke. The downside to playing Yusuke is because of his powerful shot and his slightly underwhelming special shot, which can curve but is kind of weak. It's kind of difficult to just get random times 16 multipliers on some of the enemies in this game because the main shot kills them very quickly. So if you're playing Yusuke, you have to be particularly mindful of being able to get the second score extend, which I believe occurs at 8 million in this game. I could be wrong, but that's something to double check. But yeah, so trying your best to get it the times 16 score multipliers whenever you can will help that second score extend come a little bit sooner, which is sorely necessary when you're in stages 5A and 5B of this run, or just in the game in general. So that's just one thing to look out for. Other things, well, stage 1 isn't super complicated starting out, just because it is the first stage of the game, and it will always be the school for Yusuke. And that's really nice because you get to fight Satoru, which is the boss of stage 1 first. Satoru is pretty notorious for being very difficult, especially if you get school on stage 3, because he spawns clones and he has 5 health bars. But fighting him first with Yusuke, the boss is very manageable. And so you can see that the only thing that I really try to do is to try to get those times 16 multipliers on Satoru. Of course, I mess it up literally every time, so you're not going to see a display of skill there. But that's really what I'm talking about when I say, well, you need to try to maximize your score as much as you can, especially when the stages aren't otherwise difficult and you're at an early point in the run, just because, you know, you want to get that second score extended as soon as possible. You're actually going to go for it again, only get it times 12. And we're on the final phase of the boss. You can see here that Yusuke kills these little turrets really quickly, ending that phase prematurely before it gets really complicated. That's just one example of why Yusuke is really strong, and why characters like Irori, even though they're the best as far as scoring is concerned, and that's who everyone uses to get the highest scores, generally Irori is much harder to clear the game with. So that's a really simple stage 1 boss out of the way, and now we're on the second stage of the run. If you hit the bomb button when you select Yusuke, you will always get the Bay Area stage 2nd, which is very important because, at least in my opinion, the Mall being stage 3 is the most consistent boss fight at that rank 3 difficulty level. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can get that down relatively consistently when we get to stage 3. Stage 2 has Peller Boy as the boss for this stage, and that's also not a super hard fight when you fight Peller Boy as the second stage in the game. So this starting section is not super complicated. You just want to make sure to line up with those large enemies whenever they come on the screen. And the really nice thing about this game is that usually they come in sequence, so you can kind of follow the route that's created by lining up with each of those large helicopter enemies. They'll appear throughout this stage and all of the other stages essentially throughout this game. Yeah, so here you can see it's not super complicated. You just line up with all of the big enemies as they appear. You want to take special care to also kill the foot soldiers that are on the ground, because they shoot lines of purple bullets that can wall you if you're not careful. So here is the turret that signifies the midpoint of this stage. Killing the first part is relatively easy, but you want to kind of hold off and kill this with a times 16 if you can. Here I only get the times 15, but that's a really easy way to just boost your score a little bit in the second stage. And if you watch a super play of this section, you'll see that they actually delay the kill on that giant turret to get as many bullets on the screen as possible to maximize that score. Here, I just, killed it as soon as I could. So those two helicopters with Yusuke, if you follow that route, it's very simple to kill them. They die really quickly with the main shot. And we're on the last part of stage 2 here, and we're at Peller Boy. So there's, I believe, 5 destructible parts in the first phase. You can see I'm killing that turret gun on the left first, just dodging everything while trying to kill it. I took it out. You can also kill that bomb pod, which just blew up there. I'm going to move on to do the same thing on the right. And so, if you're really good, you can get times 16 multipliers on those bomb pods and those turrets, but I really just want to dismantle this boss to make it easier to fight. I didn't even take out the middle part, which is the last of the 5 pieces you can break, and we just switched to phase 2. You're going to see a planned bomb here. The reason why I do this is to up my item limit count for later in the stage, and you'll see why later. I was aiming to try and not kill that boss with the bomb to try and get a multiplier, but I misgauged how much damage the bomb would do, and I killed the boss accidentally. You can see here that now I'm in fever mode and I'm getting these bomb recharges, just to get myself back to full bomb stock for later in this stage. The main reason why you want to be upping your max item count to get to the bomb recharge point is because when you get to a max item count of 400 and you're in stage 5, you can spend a lot of the stage just building up your bomb count and bombing. And the cool thing is that when you bomb, you actually can collect bomb items that raise your bomb gauge. So you'll see later in stage 5 that's what I'll do. So here's the beginning of stage 3. You can see that it gets a little bit busy, but if you follow the principle of just lining up with the big enemies, you'll always be able to find a route that allows you to macro dodge through the majority of these bullet patterns. You definitely don't want to be micro dodging through a lot here because of the funky hitbox in this game. That's not visible in the FbNeo arcade version, of course, so you just want to be very careful. These large enemies, if you're really good, you can get times 16 multipliers. Actually, with Iori, it's kind of auto-timed, where you'll just naturally get them if you hold down the special shot and the main shot. But with Yusuke, it's not auto-timed, so I fail a lot of it. This second part of the stage can be really tricky. Just keep lining up with those helicopters in the air, on the right and the left, and then we want to go back to the right to kill it again, and then on the left, and then on the right. See, I did those macro dodges there because I didn't really want to get walled by those purple bullets. If you try to micro dodge a lot of stuff, there's a large chance that you'll get hit somewhere or you'll get clipped, so you really want to be careful. And here is the third boss, Izuna. So here's the route that I use. I start on the top left here, and I'm slowly trying to kill this pod on the left first, avoiding those red bullets. Once the 5th shot hits, I kill the pod on the left, and now I'm point blanking the pod on the right while going through these red bullets. Then I kill the pod on the top right, and now I macro dodge all of these red shots while also dodging the blue shots. And because I killed that pod on the top right, there's only one stream of those blue bullets. Here now I'm just waiting out that pattern. You don't want to shoot that pattern in the middle during that weird walling section, because this boss shoots out these you see those capsules on the middle there? They actually shoot revenge bullets if you kill them. So it's much safer just to hang out during that pattern and then kill it during this pattern. And now this is the pretty infamous pattern for Izuna. You have to go through these hurting bullets one by one. If you follow the route that I'm taking right now, it's generally much easier to dodge because you'll always be on the correct side to go through these lanes. And then here you want to macro dodge all of the very close lanes of bullets and micro dodge the ones that aren't as close. You can see here that I got pretty lucky. I didn't get super condensed bullets and I was able to go through the lanes, and then I bomb it for the kill. Here again, I could have bombed a little bit less and killed it with just the normal, or with attempting to go for a multiplier, but I overshot it again. But I'm just really happy that I was able to get through that without dying, because it's very easy to get clipped in that section if you don't go through the route exactly as I did. So here's the beginning of stage 4. This is when the game gets pretty difficult. Here are these really annoying jetpack enemies with the spew bullets all over the place, but we got through. And here is where you get the 1-up. So you start on the left, you pan slowly to the right, then you sit on top of this tree on the right, and then you'll get that bomb. It's really easier if you go through and watch that in slow motion, because if you follow that sort of route, you'll always be able to get that one up consistently. You don't really fail it after you kind of know what enemies to kill in order to make it easy to collect that one up. I bombed that large airplane enemy partly because it's difficult to dodge, and also because you get more enemies that spawn these helicopters if you speed kill it. Here's the train section. You also want to follow a route for this. You want to kill those beetles whenever they appear on the screen, slowly panning from right to left while killing the train. At this point, you want to also get a bullet cancel on the train in order to go back to the left of that beetle, and then you go back to the right to finish off the train. This thing stays on the screen for a long time, so you want to make sure that you know roughly when it'll die, as such. And now you can see these bulbous ships start appearing, which are super annoying. They have collision hitboxes, and you really want to kill them whenever you can. You can see here that I left one alive by accident, and what a ruckus it's caused, so I had to point blank it to kill it. Here's another one that just is super annoying. I actually can't kill this one because it hangs out in the bottom right, but thankfully it moves out of the way. Now, what you want to do is move to the right of the screen and just duck there, dodging that large train car enemy. And now you're on the final rush where these large ships shoot these hurting bullets. So if you hang out on the bottom of the screen roughly and kind of move between the lanes, you can dodge them, but it takes a bit of practice. Now, it's okay to bomb in this section, because if you die here, you're screwed for the Stage 4 boss, which is coming up, because you'll be at low power and you'll need to bomb. So it's okay to go through that last section, either through a route or bombing it if you're not sure. So this first pattern of the Stage 4 boss is relatively simple, but every other pattern is very difficult because he shoots these overlapping blue and purple bullets at you. So the trick is that if you dodge them on the bottom right of the screen, moving as little as possible as you stick through the lanes of the blue, and then going through the windows of purple bullets whenever you need to, it becomes a bit easier. But this is a very pure boss fight in the sense that you're really going to have to be dodging a lot of these patterns, or bombing through them. And so the Stage 4 boss is a pretty big difficulty spike, or a large hurdle to clear. So the first phase is done. You can see we'll have even more overlapping bullets, but if you stay on the bottom right of the screen, it generally becomes easier to dodge. So we got through that one. This is a very dense and fast pattern, especially with Yusuke, who causes less slowdown with his shot, so I just bomb it, and we're on stage 3. So phase 3, you can do this around the world dodge if the boss is low enough in the screen to be able to get through this one relatively easily. See here that I was able to line up and go through the windows at the very end. And here is another very raw, very fast pattern. So I dodge it for as long as I can, but when I feel like I'm about to get hit, I bomb. This pattern is actually very difficult as well. So since I ran out of bombs, I just had to dodge it, but thankfully I was able to get through it. If I were a little bit better, the pattern in which I bombed actually was a bit easier than that last one. So if I had held out, then I would have bombed that last pattern for sure, because that one is very difficult. Now we're finally at stage 5. I don't believe I've died yet, but I have no more bombs in stock, so I have to play really careful here. So the start of the stage is not super hard. You just want to, again, line up with the large enemies whenever possible. Here I'm going to be point blanking, or very nearly point blanking, these large ships that come in, and then I'm going to kill this turret as well, and then go to kill the turrets and the ships on the right and the left. And now this large tank is going to come in. This thing is a huge problem. It stays on the screen forever, and you're going to have to micro through these walls of purple bullets while contending with everything else on the screen. So here you can see I'm at 394 item count. So I see that I'm going to get a bomb refill. So what I do now is I kill the enemies and I bomb whenever I can. And the cool thing is now I get this bomb refill that brings me almost a full bomb stock. Here you can see that I'm demonstrating how you can use your bomb stock to refill your bomb as you're bombing. So you can see here I'm creating these items, and then I'm holding the bomb up while collecting them, and that's sort of how I got through that section. So here you can see that I'm killing these enemies as well on the right and the left, which is a little bit of a breather in this section.
And then now we're on this yellow tank. So I start by point blanking this tank, panning from left to right. The issue is that I don't kill it for quite long enough and it doesn't die. that tank rewards a full screen clear if you're able to just stick to that route a little bit longer. Same with this yellow tank on the right. Unfortunately, I'm not able to kill it. If you pan to the very left of the screen, actually you seal its bullets, but it's still a problem because once you get to this section where there's the yellow tank still and you have these stationary large tanks, the yellow tank still fires. So ideally you want to be able to kill that yellow tank before it gets to those stationary tanks. And now we're on this section where we have to just get through to the end of stage 5A. Just one quick aside with that tank section again. It's okay to bomb that section because it's very difficult. There you can see I take my first death of the run. That happened because I had no more bombs and I couldn't point blank these guys fast enough, and so it created this very large, dense amount of bullets that I had to kill, or that I had to weave through, and I unfortunately couldn't do it. So here is the stage 5A boss. Apparently, what you can do to get through it relatively easily, at least the first part, is if you do these around the world dodges in a clockwise fashion, you can generally avoid a lot of the more difficult patterns that are shot out at you, especially given the revenge bullets that come out from shooting the mirror, which are these red bullets. So doing these around the world dodges gets you pretty far in being able to dodge these patterns. And then another thing is that this boss actually dies very quickly to a fully charged bomb, which you'll see happen right here. And so you can essentially kill it from a little bit less than half HP. So that's really the goal with getting this boss down consistently, is while it's doing its easier bullet patterns in the first half, you really want to just go through it with those around the world dodges, and then you bomb it. Here is the Alice clone section. What you do really is you start by slowly panning across the screen and then doing these C motions in order to go from right to left and left to right in order to herd those blue bullets, and then finding and picking your moment for a cutback. You can see I was able to create an opening there, do the cutback, and then move from left to right. And now you can see here that I get walled, so I have a bomb. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that final cutback in time. These stationary tanks die much sooner than the other stationary tanks that happen in Stage 5A. And now I'm just applying the same principle, except that these large beetles shoot these very dense bullets, and so it's much harder to do these cutbacks. So here you can see I have to use the last of my bomb stock in order to get through this section. So now I have no bombs, and I'm going on the jumping Alice clone section, which is really the evil part of this run. And the reason why they're evil is mostly just because they move randomly and they jump around, and they actually have collision hitboxes since they're in the air. So it makes doing these cutbacks really difficult when you're trying to avoid them physically. And yeah, thankfully I was able to get through that section by doing this kind of around the world dodge on those beetles. It was funny, one of the Alice clones actually hung out with the beetles for a bit. But that could have gone very differently, especially since I didn't have any bombs. So that's a section that, even with practice, is quite difficult to get through, so I was very lucky to be able to do that in this run. Now we're on the final boss, and the first phase is called Ares. It's this giant statue head that shoots lots of overlapping bullet patterns at you. The first phase has these two overlapping bullet patterns. Here I get lucky because they are different colored. The main difficulty of this boss comes from when the boss chooses to shoot two overlapping patterns of the exact same color, and that's when it gets very visually confusing. Here's an example. Thankfully this was an easier version of that. But these overlapping bullet patterns are actually random, so that's why this boss fight is also kind of a pure experience, where you just have to have enough dodging capabilities to be able to handle this, or as much as possible. You can see here that the second half of this phase has three different overlapping bullet patterns that you have to dodge at the same time. You can see here I'm going to take a death right there because I was walled off in that corner, and dealing with those three overlapping bullet patterns was a pain. So finally here's Gara. She is the final boss of the game, and really just the last giant wall where it uses up all your resources. Her first pattern is evil. You have to go through those red hurting bullets, and so because I had to power up anyway, because I just died, I bombed to get through a lot of the first phase. This pattern is also pretty evil, so really this entire first pattern, it's just very difficult, especially when
you're, with the hitbox the way it is in this game, where it kind of moves to the left or the right depending on your character, if you're not focused in shooting your special shot. This is the second phase of Gara. It's generally dodgeable if you move within the lanes of blue bullets while macroing the red bullets, but there I didn't feel quite comfortable, and I wanted to be bomb efficient in the sense that I used up my bomb stock before I died, so I just used it there. Was able to get through. This pattern is kind of weird because it shoots these walls of blue and red bullets. The idea is that some of these walls are actually aimed at you, and so you can misdirect a lot of it to create openings for yourself. So you can see when I started this pattern, I was on the top left of the screen, and I slowly panned to the bottom and then to the right. And if you do this correctly, you can see that it made that pattern relatively easy. This is the final meteor pattern, or the second to last meteor pattern of the game. You just have to do these large, aggressive macro dodges in order to get through this. The meteors are so fast that you can't really dodge them otherwise. And that's also why Yusuke is a really good character to 1cc the game with as far as survival goes, because he's fast enough to be able to make these really quick, aggressive dodges. I'm also holding both the rapid shot and special shot buttons at the same time in order to do a little bit more damage. So that's another thing that could make this phase a bit easier. So finally, I get through that phase and we're on to the last phase. So this last phase is pretty infamous because there's a very specific way of dodging it, as I'm demonstrating here. Unfortunately, I get walled. But the idea is that Gara moves randomly and shoots these blue and purple hand bullets at you. The purple bullets are not aimed at you, and the blue bullets are. So what you want to do is hang out on top of Gara's head while she's shooting the purple bullets, and then the blue bullets you misdirect above her head, as you can see I'm doing here. Another fun fact is that the amount that she moves signifies how long she's shooting, whether it's the purple or blue bullets. So you can see here this blue bullet pattern, she moved a lot, so she shot it for a long time and then cornered me with the purple bullets. So that's the general idea for this section. The cool thing is that she doesn't actually have a bomb barrier. She moves off the screen, but you can still shoot her with the bomb, as I'm doing there. And so whereas in a game like Pluto, where you can't use your bomb in the final phase at all of the boss, there, because I had enough resources and a full bomb stock, I was able to use it to secure the kill. Otherwise, dodging that pattern, as you saw, you can get walled pretty easily, and then unless you have good reactions and you can quickly line up to those lanes to be able to dodge it, which I've seen happen, but is very rare or very difficult, you're gonna die. So yeah, that was FbNeo. I was really happy, as I said, with how I performed in this run. And it was one of those runs where I got to show off some of those tricks and those various things that made the run more consistent overall, especially in stages 3 through 5. Overall, this is one of my favorite games of all time. I feel it's definitely my favorite cave and favorite shmup so far. It was, as I mentioned, a really extended grind in order to get this, to get to the point where I could 1cc the game. And it was, in my opinion, I enjoyed every second of it. It truly was a memorable experience. And yeah, so I'm really happy to be able to show this. I actually want to also maybe create a more tutorial style video on this game that kind of goes through some of the more in-depth aspects of it that you could use in order to, in order to play this game and to get the 1cc, especially because it's not very beginner friendly, and I wasn't able to cover everything through just talking through the run in real time here today. So with that being said, yeah, thanks for your attention. I really appreciate it. Take care.